I stood in the middle of the vineyard estate I'd rented for the family reunion, a glass of sparkling cider in my hand, watching everyone laugh under the golden Napa Valley sun. It was July 2024, and I, Ethan Carver, a 34-year-old environmental consultant who'd finally made it big, had poured my heart into this weekend. I wanted to give my family a memory to cherish. Instead, they gave me a t-shirt. Bold red letters screamed "Family Flop" across my chest. My heart sank like a stone in the still pond nearby. I forced a smile, the kind that stings your cheeks, and stared at the words. They felt etched into my skin. My sister, Mia, smirked from the picnic table. "It's just a joke, Ethan," she said, sipping her rose. My brother, Noah, chuckled, his sunglasses reflecting the sunlight. "Lighten up, bro. It's hilarious." My parents, sitting under a shaded canopy, exchanged a glance, Mom with a nervous laugh, Dad with a smirk. I nodded slowly, the weight of their laughter pressing against my ribs. I'd paid for everything, the estate, the catering, even the shirts. That was the cruelest part. They'd used my money to mock me. I felt hollow, like the wind could blow right through me. I set the shirt on the table, my hands trembling, and excused myself with a tight smile. "I'll be back," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'd spent months planning this reunion, dreaming of a moment where I'd finally belong. I'd rented this vineyard because Mom always talked about her childhood summers picking grapes with her cousins. I thought it'd spark something warm, something real. Instead, I got a label that confirmed what I'd always feared: I'd never be enough for them. My chest tightened as I climbed the wooden stairs to the guest suite, my suite, since I'd booked the whole place. I opened my suitcase, my fingers brushing against a sleek black folder. The papers inside were my big reveal, printed on thick ivory stock, each page a promise of a better future for them. I'd even imagined popping a bottle of vintage wine to celebrate. Now that felt like a cruel joke too. I grabbed the folder, my heart pounding, and headed back downstairs. I paused at the edge of the picnic area, the folder heavy in my hands. They were all posing for a photo, their matching shirts glowing in the sunlight, completely oblivious to me. Perfect. I stepped forward, my shadow falling over the table, and slid the papers out. Without a word, I tore them in half. The sound was sharp, like a crack of thunder in the quiet afternoon. Page after page, I ripped them apart, slow and deliberate, letting the pieces flutter to the ground like broken dreams. Mia froze, her phone still raised. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Noah's brow furrowed, his voice sharp. "Is that a proposal or something?" I didn't answer. Dad stood, his chair scraping against the stone patio. "Ethan, stop." I set the torn papers in front of my empty seat, the jagged edges stark against the white tablecloth. "Enjoy the shirts," I said, my voice cold, and walked away. No yelling, no drama, just the sound of my footsteps on the gravel path, the creak of the estate's iron gate, and the warm breeze against my face like a sigh of relief. I made it to my car, a sleek electric SUV I'd bought after my firm's latest contract, and sat there for 15 minutes, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. They were steady now, but my mind was a storm. Their laughter replayed in my head, a cruel loop that I couldn't mute. Mom's hesitant giggle, like she was testing the waters of cruelty. Noah's mocking tone, sharp and careless, slicing through the warm air. Mia's smirk, her eyes glinting with a satisfaction I'd seen too many times growing up. They thought it was harmless, just another family jest, like Mia's sarcastic birthday texts or Noah's jabs about my tree-hugging career. But it wasn't harmless. It was a blade, and I'd been bleeding for years, each cut deeper than the last, each scar a reminder of my place in their story. I closed my eyes, and a memory surfaced, unbidden, from when I was 12. It was Christmas Eve, and I'd saved up my allowance for months to buy Mom a silver locket. I'd wrapped it carefully, my hands clumsy with excitement, imagining her smile. Instead, she'd opened it, nodded, and set it aside to gush over Noah's last-minute gas station flowers. "You always know how to make me feel special, Noah," she'd said, while I sat there, invisible, the locket forgotten on the coffee table. I could trace their dismissal back even further, to when I was 10, when Noah accidentally set fire to the neighbor's shed with a firecracker. I wasn't even there. I'd been at the library researching for a school project on renewable energy, but I got blamed for not watching him closely enough. I was grounded for a month, my books gathering dust, while Noah got ice cream for being brave after the fire trucks left. At 13, Mia cheated on a science project, copying my notes word for word, and when she got caught, I got a lecture for not being a better role model. "You should have helped her, Ethan," Dad had said, his voice heavy with disappointment, as if I'd been the one cheating. Every mistake in our house somehow became mine, even when I wasn't there, a pattern so ingrained I'd stopped questioning it. I learned to shrink, to apologize for things I didn't do, to carry their failures so they wouldn't have to. By 16, I was begging for help with a small business loan to start an eco-consulting gig. Just a signature, not even money. They refused, saying I needed to grow up. Meanwhile, Noah had crashed his third car, a shiny red convertible Dad had bought him for his birthday, and Mia was off in Bali on a self-discovery trip they'd funded, her Instagram filled with sunsets and cocktails. I worked 2 jobs, slept 3 hours a night, and built my firm from nothing. I learned to pitch, to fail, to keep going, each rejection a brick in the foundation of my resolve. I didn't ask for much, just a "we're proud of you" would have been enough. Instead, I became their punchline. The hippie who'd never settle down, the dreamer who'd never make it, the flop who'd never measure up. When I landed my first $1 million contract, I didn't tell them. I sat alone in my tiny apartment, the email confirmation glowing on my laptop screen, and felt a quiet pride I couldn't share. When I paid off my loans in one go, I kept it quiet, the bank teller's congratulations echoing in my ears as I walked back to my car. When my firm was featured in a sustainability magazine, I said nothing, tucking the glossy pages into a drawer where they wouldn't be tainted by their mockery. I knew they'd twist it, mock it, or take credit. So I stayed silent. But I watched. Watched Mia throw lavish brunches she couldn't afford, her laughter loud and hollow as she posted photos of charcuterie boards and mimosas. Watch Noah post about self-care on Instagram, his captions dripping with faux vulnerability, only to text me for cash days later, his messages always starting with, "Hey bro, I hate to ask." Watch my parents struggle with their bills but still splurge on luxury vacations, their social media filled with cruise ship selfies while their mailbox overflowed with overdue notices. I'd been helping them in secret for years, anonymous payments to cover their mortgage, untraceable transfers for Mia's kids' school fees, a fund to clear Noah's debts. I thought if I gave enough, they'd finally see me. That hope died last Thanksgiving. I offered to host everyone at a coastal retreat I'd booked, a quaint cabin overlooking the Pacific, hoping the sound of waves would soften their edges. Mom told me to save my money, her voice clipped, then bragged online about Noah's family-funded getaway, a trip I knew he couldn't afford on his bartender salary. That was when I decided, no more shadows. This reunion was supposed to be my moment. I'd prepared everything, a letter promising my parents a debt-free retirement, the final payment on their mortgage ready to be wired, a trust for Mia's kids to attend a better school in a safer neighborhood. A clean slate for Noah with a job offer at a green tech startup I partnered with. Each document was signed, sealed, printed on heavy paper, tucked into emerald green folders to match the vineyard's aesthetic. I'd spent nights imagining the scene, Mom's tears of gratitude as she read the letter, her hands trembling, Dad's quiet nod of respect, maybe even a handshake, Mia's apology, her voice soft with regret, Noah's awe. His usual smirk replaced with something genuine. I'd pictured the sun setting over the vineyard, casting a warm glow over the table as we toasted to new beginnings. Instead, I got a t-shirt that branded me a failure, the red letters a cruel mirror of every doubt I'd ever had about myself. I sat in my car, the folders' torn remnants scattered on the passenger seat, and felt a strange calm settle over me. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was clarity. I'd spent my life trying to fit into their story, bending myself into shapes they could accept, but I was done. The vineyard air smelled of grapes and earth, a scent that should have been comforting but instead felt like a goodbye. They knew on some level. They'd seen my car, a sleek electric model I'd bought after my firm's latest contract, its quiet hum a stark contrast to Noah's roaring gas guzzlers. They'd seen my clothes, tailored suits I'd worn to client meetings, a far cry from the hand-me-downs I'd grown up in. They'd seen the way clients lit up when I mentioned my firm's name, their eyes widening with recognition. Dad once asked if I was doing okay, but it was the kind of question that fished for confirmation without giving credit, his tone careful, almost resentful. They didn't care, or worse, they did, and it made them uncomfortable. It was easier to keep me as the flop than admit they'd been wrong. Now, they'd see what I'd planned to give them. And not just them, everyone. Everyone who'd heard them call me a dreamer, a drifter, a failure, their voices dripping with pity or disdain at family gatherings, their words a constant hum in the background of my life. They'd see the truth. But first, things would get uglier. My phone buzzed as I started the car, first one call, then 5, then a flood, the screen lighting up with their names like a warning. I didn't answer. Let them read the torn papers. Let them feel the weight of what they'd lost, the future I'd offered and then taken away. An hour later, the story started spreading, a wildfire I couldn't control. A friend I hadn't spoken to in years texted me, "Hey, Mia just posted something weird. Said you lost it at the reunion. You okay?" I opened Instagram, my fingers cold against the screen. There it was, a photo of the picnic table, shirts neatly folded, wine glasses sparkling in the sunlight, a caption that read, "Some people can't handle family love. We still care even when they push us away." No names, but it was obvious who she meant. The comments were a mix of pity and shade. "So sorry, you don't deserve this. Family drama is the worst, sending love." Then the family group chat lit up, a barrage of notifications that made my stomach churn. Screenshots from cousins, a call from an aunt saying mom was devastated, claiming I'd had a meltdown and destroyed important papers in a fit of rage. Noah texted me directly, "You need help, man? You made everyone uncomfortable. We tried to include you and you ruined it." Include me? Right? The word echoed in my mind, a bitter irony. I remembered a summer barbecue when I was 15, standing on the sidelines while they played volleyball, their laughter ringing out as I watched from the shade. "Come join us, Ethan," Mia had called, but her tone was mocking, and when I'd hesitated, Noah had rolled his eyes. "He's too busy saving the planet," he'd said, and they'd all laughed, leaving me to sit alone with my book on solar energy. I forwarded the original documents to my lawyer, asking her to timestamp them, and CC'd my assistant, my hands shaking with a mix of anger and resolve. She replied instantly, "Want to push up the Green Innovate profile to tomorrow? I can include the scan docs." I typed back, "Yes," my fingers steady now, fueled by a determination I hadn't felt in years. I had proof. They had lies. And the louder they lied, the more dangerous it became. They were experts at rewriting history, crafting narratives that absolved them of guilt, but not this time. I shared the Green Innovate link on my socials, no caption, no tags, just the article, the quiet visionary who funded his family's dreams, then walked away. It detailed my firm's $40 million valuation, the anonymous payments I'd made for years, the sustainability grants I'd launched for others like me, people written off by their loved ones. It included scans of the documents I'd torn up, signed and dated, and a clear explanation of why I left. Not out of anger, but clarity. Within hours, my inbox was chaos, a flood of messages that felt like a tidal wave. First came the praise, "Incredible story, Ethan." Then the apologies, "I had no idea, I'm so sorry." Then the panic, a crescendo of desperation from the people who'd laughed just hours ago. A voicemail from Mia, her voice shrill, "Why would you make this public? You're embarrassing us." A text from Noah, his words dripping with venom, "Real classy, bro, hope you're happy destroying the family." Mom called, her tone pleading, "We need to talk, Ethan. It was just a joke, you took it the wrong way." A joke? Sure. But the story was growing, spreading beyond their control. A sustainability vlogger shared it, her video racking up thousands of views. A podcast covered it, the hosts dissecting the betrayal with a mix of awe and anger. A mini-doc on YouTube gained traction, its comments section a battleground of opinions. Most sided with me, "This is what betrayal looks like." I'd walk away too. People saw the humiliation even when it hid behind a smile and called itself family. Halfway through the storm, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been the flop in someone's story, even when you were the one holding things together? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to know how you dealt with it. Noah tried to fight back, posting a rant on Twitter about me exaggerating for attention, claiming I'd always been too sensitive. Someone replied with a screenshot of the job offer I'd written for him, timestamped, the date's undeniable. Another found an old post where Mia called herself the star sibling, her words now a haunting echo of her cruelty. Not so funny now? An eco-influencer I'd never met shared the article with a caption, "Not every underdog is lost, some are just done with the pack." They thought they could paint me as the villain, their words a desperate attempt to reclaim the narrative. Instead, they exposed themselves, their lies unraveling under the weight of truth. And I hadn't said a word publicly. I didn't need to. I had receipts, and the world was watching, their eyes wide with the realization of what I'd endured. They didn't stop, their desperation growing with each passing day. Noah doubled down, claiming I'd always wanted to be the victim, his Twitter thread a mess of half-truths and deflections. Mia told relatives I was unstable, that success had changed me, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger as she tried to rally support. My parents stayed quiet online, but I knew they were spinning their version, calling friends, saying I'd misunderstood a sad situation, their voices soft with false concern. It didn't work this time. People who'd seen the truth reached out, their messages a lifeline I hadn't expected. A cousin texted, "I always saw how they treated you differently," her words a quiet validation of my pain. A former teacher emailed, "I remember your mom calling you a dreamer while boasting about Noah's internship at a firm you later partnered with," her memory a sharp reminder of how long this had been going on. The hardest part wasn't their lies, though they stung like salt in an open wound. It was realizing I'd spent so long waiting for them to change, hoping for a scrap of approval, that I hadn't seen how much I'd grown. I wasn't the kid begging for their approval anymore, the boy who'd sat silently at the dinner table while they praised Noah's mediocre grades and ignored my straight A's. I had my own life, my own purpose, a firm that was changing the world one sustainable project at a time. And in that realization, I found peace, a quiet strength that felt like the first deep breath after years of holding it in. They sent a letter a week later. Not an apology, just a plea. We're still your family, Ethan. We love you. Let's move past this. Move past it like I'd overreacted to a prank, like their years of mockery were a minor inconvenience. I didn't reply, the letter sitting unopened on my desk for days, its presence a reminder of their refusal to change. Another letter came, longer, more emotional, listing what they'd done for me as a kid: school supplies, rides to soccer, a bed to sleep in, as if those basics erased the years of emotional neglect. They never mentioned the years of mockery, the lies, or how fast they'd turned on me. Then Noah posted an old photo of us, captioning it, "Miss my brother. Love him always." I got tagged endlessly, strangers and distant relatives chiming in, but I stayed silent. The only people I owed were the ones who'd been there when I had nothing: my college roommate who'd lent me his laptop when mine broke, the mentor who'd given me my first internship, the friend who'd celebrated my first contract with a cheap bottle of wine and a high five. None of them were at that vineyard, laughing at my expense. Things shifted in the quiet, the aftermath unfolding like a slow-motion crash. Mia's partner left her, tired of her "we're the victims" narrative, his patience finally snapping after years of her excuses. He took their kids, moved to his brother's, the news reaching me through a mutual friend rather than Mia herself. Noah lost a speaking gig at a local eco-conference after someone sent the organizer the article, and Noah's old podcast clip where he'd said I'd never finish anything, his own words now a noose around his credibility. My parents tried to refinance their house, a desperate attempt to regain stability. It fell through, the bank citing risk. A colleague in finance told me the details, his voice neutral but his implication clear. I didn't cause that, but I did stop the monthly transfers I'd been sending, the ones that had kept their lights on while they mocked me. That was my choice, a line I drew with a steady hand and a clear conscience. I started living for me, traveling to national parks without checking my phone, the redwoods towering above me like silent guardians, making decisions without wondering if they'd approve, each choice a step toward freedom, building projects because I love them. Not to prove anything, my latest initiative, a community solar grid that lit up a small town. One night, months later, I got a message from a stranger: "Thank you for showing me it's okay to let go." It hit me hard, not because I needed validation, but because it showed my pain had purpose, a ripple effect I hadn't anticipated. I wasn't angry they didn't love me the way I'd hoped, a dream I'd clung to like a child with a broken toy. I was angry they pretended to, all while tearing me down, their words a constant erosion of my self-worth. That night, I opened a drawer and found copies of the documents I'd torn up, the paper still crisp despite the months that had passed. I ran my fingers over the edges, the roughness a tactile memory of that day. It didn't feel like failure anymore. It felt like freedom, a door I'd finally closed. I don't know where they are now. I don't check. Sometimes people send updates, but I don't read them, deleting the messages with a swipe. The version of me who needed their validation, he's gone. 3 years later, I was at a friend's wedding in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the air crisp with pine and promise. A guest, a woman with kind eyes, shook my hand. "Wait, are you the vineyard guy?" I laughed, a real laugh, the kind that feels light. "Yeah, I guess I am." She smiled, her voice soft. "I cut ties with my sister last year. Your story gave me the courage." I didn't know what to say, but her words stayed with me. For so long, I thought walking away meant losing. Now I know it was the first time I fought for myself. I sometimes wonder if they still talk about me, if they've rewritten the story, if they miss me or just miss who they could manipulate. We haven't spoken since. Maybe that's the loudest truth of all. I've shared my story, now I want to hear yours. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family? Comment below, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you want more stories about finding strength in the hardest moments. Let's keep this conversation going.